Hi everyone, my name is Drake, and this is gonna be a different kind of video for me. It's gonna be a lot more personal and a lot more honest, and it's gonna give you an insight on just some of what I've had to deal with. So I am from Bosnia, which is here. Not to get too much into it, but I've never felt at home here, and I've always known that I wanted to leave. I've always been pretty good at English, so I always thought I'd be moving to the US or something. And then the more I learned about how the US actually works in their healthcare system, for example, the more I was like, no, this is a bad choice for me. But then, more than 6 years ago, I met my partner, where the idea of moving to the UK started to form. So let's start from the summer of 2021. I had finally finished university after a lot of burnout. I had a double leg injury. COVID screwed up the entire world. You get it. My partner and I got engaged after lengthy discussions about how we want to build our life together post the 2020 lockdowns. We talked about moving over to the UK for years actually. And it finally came time for me to seriously start preparing. I had nothing else tying me down to the Balkan area. So we had hoped we'd do the family type visa for the UK, more specifically the fiancé visa that extends into the spouse visa, and that I'd be moving over by the end of that year. Well, obviously things didn't really go according to plan. Some things on the UK Visas and Immigration website were a bit unclear to me, so around August or September of 2021, we decided to speak to an immigration lawyer from the UK just to make sure we have everything in order. Cue bombshell number one. Something they don't really say on the website, but an extremely important piece of information is that since my partner is self-employed, the usual 6 months of his payslips won't be enough to satisfy their biggest requirement, which is a predetermined amount of yearly earnings. No, in this case, they require an entire financial year. Because he'd only been working like this for 6 months at that time, the second half of the fiscal year, earning that predetermined amount was not enough, and our application would have gotten denied. So you might be wondering, why does this even matter? Well, for the family visa group, they don't care if I have any savings unless they exceed £64,000. If I'm employed and have constant income, unless that's in the UK. But if obviously I was in the UK, I wouldn't be working this hard to get in. So I don't really matter. What matters is that my partner, who is a UK national, earns what they've deemed a minimum yearly amount after tax that he can support me on. They don't lead with the assumption that I'd get a job, and the last thing that they want is an immigrant on benefits, right? So yeah, my partner needs to prove he can support me to what they say is a reasonable degree, because who knows if I'll ever be working, and obviously I can't get a job before I'm there on a long-term basis already. Just FYI, I am a graduate in psychology with experience in domestic abuse and trauma work and a continuous interest in that as well. And back home, I can't work. There's just nothing. There aren't any jobs for me at all. The field that I'm interested in is completely disregarded. So one of the main reasons I've wanted to move away from here almost my entire life is because it is a backwards, suffocating, bribe-filled, corrupted dumpster fire of a country with no economic growth and no chance for me to have a good life, a life where I can do and feel good. I want to work. I cannot wait to get a job, but that doesn't matter on my application. This is why the moment the lawyer told us that 6 months will not suffice, but that we need a financial year report, which is September to September in this case, by the way, we knew there was no way for me to start the application and move over that year, or get married, as we'd planned. So I cried for weeks. I was devastated. We thought we were so ready, but it wasn't enough, and that's after 5 years of long distance, of planning, of stress. So then I thought, let's not waste an entire year just waiting. I will get a standard visitor's visa, and that way at least we can spend, 5 to 6 months of 2022 together. And then in October of 2022, we will finally get this started and I can move over by the end of that year. I was working online as an English teacher just to try and earn a bit in what I thought would be a 6-month little gap before my move, but I ended up having to quit that job in January of 2022 anyway, because you're not allowed to work on a standard visitor's visa at all or volunteer. Even if it's for a different country and not the UK, it's not allowed. So I had to quit. I used what I'd saved up to build a really nice gaming PC here in the UK, since my laptop had really started giving up on life at that point. And so the visa got approved and I went over for a bit and we had some really good days. We were planning for a wedding for April of 2023. We built my PC together and I tried to post some videos whenever I was able to, though we were in my fiance's family house at the time and it felt really awkward just sitting in that room talking to myself, knowing his family was just downstairs, and it was weird. It was also a bit hard at times because obviously my partner was working and I had to stay at the house by myself. I was kind of unable to go anywhere or do anything since I really don't know anyone and I don't have any of, my own friends that are nearby that I can just go hang out with, or didn't really know how to get anywhere. And all in all, it was great though. We found our venue, our photographer, our registrar. We made some really good progress on planning, and then 3 days before I had to travel back, we also found an apartment. The rental market in the UK is insane, by the way. It was absolutely horrible trying to find a place, and we got extremely lucky at the end there, but that's a story for another day. My visa was expiring in July, and I had to go back home. We decided to have one more session with an immigration lawyer just to confirm everything was still as we thought, that there had been no massive changes and that we were still on track. We thought, okay, once we have those financial year reports, maybe we can scrape up enough to even pay for the priority visa service so I can finally be over in December of 2022. Well, wrong. Cue bombshell number 2. Yes, all the rules remain the same. However, due to prioritizing Ukraine settlement visas, the wait type for a family visa was now up to 6 months instead of 3. 6 full months. And there is no priority service being offered. So, because we had to wait to apply in October, because they insist on the financial year reports to see a year's worth of payslips instead of 6 months, and because there's no priority and the waiting times have doubled, we would receive a decision by April. Our wedding is in April. I have to be there at least a month before in order to finish all the paperwork and give notice of marriage in time, without which we cannot legally even get married. And this means the plan for the proper way of me moving, getting married, extending into the spouse visa, finally having a normal life together, and me getting a job wasn't gonna pan out again. Of course, I am not at all saying that they should not have been prioritizing Ukraine settlement or moving visas. Not at all. It's the one good thing that this government in the UK has done. It's welcome Ukrainian immigrants as much these horrible fucking times. I mean, I really empathize with what's going on. But to pull it back into, our own personal lives and my personal perspective, it was just like thinking, why is this happening again? It was devastating all over again, and I was not doing well. This meant we wouldn't be able to get the visa started again because we just didn't have the time. I can't just give up my passport for 6 months and hope the decision arrives earlier so our entire wedding wouldn't fall through due to me being unable to get into the country. All that planning and preparation, and I was once again having to come to terms with the fact that it just wasn't going to happen. As I'm writing this part, it is August of 2022. The only alternative we have is to give up on the family visa for now and apply for a marriage visitor's visa instead. This would allow me to come into the country as a tourist yet again for up to 6 months, but with the ability to give notice of marriage and get married. As it expires, though, I have to leave. I have to come back home again and then apply for the family visa from Bosnia again. hopefully by summer of 2023. Another huge setback. Keep in mind, I can't get a job in Bosnia and I can't work on visitors' visas. So only when the family visa gets approved and they allow me to stay for over 2.5 years, I get the right to work or study or do pretty much anything in the UK. Not to mention the cost of a family visa and the biometric appointment and the flights and the health coverage by the NHS and the priority services, if we can get it, altogether would amount to over £4,000. This entire process is incredibly expensive and time consuming. I am just wasting so much of my life. These are years I will never get back. Just because I want to be with my partner, because I want to have a job in my field, because I wish to have a semblance of a normal and happy life. I hope people remember that next time they want to shit on immigrants and talk down to those who have had to go through all of this. And probably a lot more if they're escaping war or prosecution. Listen to this and listen well. Immigrating to the UK is incredibly difficult. It takes away so much of your time, your paychecks and savings, your independence, your dignity. And once you're in the process, you don't even know if your visa is approved or denied until your passport is delivered back to your door and you open it, frantically searching the pages for that glorified sticker. What you're seeing in this video is just a compilation of what my days were like at my home country. Writing this, waiting still, unsure if anything will go according to plan, and just clinging on to hope that our wedding will actually be able to happen. I've had nothing to do for months. I couldn't find the will or motivation to watch a new movie or read a book or go outside most days. I just stay in bed and watch streams or videos. I scroll TikTok endlessly and refresh social media. I cook for myself because I couldn't get takeout if I wanted to. Sometimes I see my friends and mostly I feel sad, angry, or incredibly empty and so bitter. This is miserable. I was fragile and tense and irritable. I've given up on everything in that country, and every minute I had to stay there was crushing. I couldn't control it. I wished I could somehow make the best of that time, but I was so hurt and so tired. I just want to be with my person, to enjoy the mundane things about life. I want to wake up in our apartment and eat breakfast together in our kitchen. I want to put away the dishes and remind my partner to drink enough water that day. I want to start low in a company, get trained and work hard to try and be a counselor someday. I want to struggle and complain about the bills. I don't want to be alone in this room anymore, trying not to cry out of frustration that my life continues to be on hold. I want to actually have a life instead of this miserable limbo I'm forced to endure in order to be given the privilege of being with my partner and working in my field. I was doing better in October. I was asked to come back to do something I used to do since I didn't have anything else going on and they really needed the help. And it was a bit of pocket money, something to do every day, so that was getting me out of the house regularly. I was seeing some friends and that helped to pull me out of the pit that I was getting so comfortable in. Anyways, this is when I started collecting my documents. It was the 14th at the time of writing this, and I'd already prepped a lot. Need to pick up a few more documents next week and get those translated, and after that it's just waiting for some documents from the UK that would complete my application, and then I'm going for it. Wintertime is really hard here. Can't believe I have to welcome another year in the same place with the same feelings, hoping the next one will finally be the one where I'm actually comfortable somewhere. November 12th, I was finally able to submit my application. My biometrics appointment is in 10 days, so I have a few days to wait for the final document, and then I can prepare everything. I'll have to upload all my documents, which are either in English by source or translated by a paid interpreter, which is fun. They will look over my application and documents, take a photo and fingerprints, and then take a passport. After the appointment, they are saying it should take around 7 weeks to get a decision. The drive over there was slow and foggy. It's getting really cold now, so this is what a lot of the views are like. Once I got there, I was admitted early since nobody else had an appointment before mine, but filming or using your phone inside is not allowed, so here's a short vid of the breakfast I had after in this terribly lit and aesthetically horrible, insulting for the senses cafe. We headed back. The few days after, I just felt exhausted, probably from the amount of energy it took just waiting and hoping to get here already. And now I just have to wait again. Trying very hard to keep my mind off that. As a fluke, I decided to check the status of my application online, though I don't make a habit of it in the first few weeks since it's expected to take double that to get a decision. To my absolute shock though, it says the application is being transferred back. This means that they made a decision and my passport will be back with me sometime in the following week, along with either a visa or a rejection letter. This is 2 weeks after the paperwork arrived at the decision-making center, so naturally my first reaction was fear. I couldn't allow myself to think positively about a decision as quick as that, and it only made sense to me that they rejected my application right off the bat. I had a full-on meltdown, and I still didn't know what happened for at least a few days. I wished I hadn't even checked it. After some excruciating anxiety-ridden days and barely any sleep, I got the text telling me the delivery will be today. It came to my house while I was out, and Dad sent me a picture of the visa inside my passport. I wish I could say I was elated or happy at this moment, but I was just momentarily relieved and then just tired. Flights are expensive, and I still have to stay here for another month before traveling. I got it, and that's wonderful. Until next year, when I have to do all this all over again. The expectation of all the relief and excitement I must be feeling from those around me is a burden. I'm exhausted, and I just want to get out of here. I'm feeling a lot, but also trying not to think about it because this year I've been having a lot of issues with my mental health, and I know I'll get better when I'm not living at the origin or triggering point of it all. I don't think it's understood by others the weight I'm feeling every single day, anxiety and the pressures of the process that has yet to come in 2023, the fact that I've been going through this for years at this point. I was feeling completely stuck and lonely in my head. My days were filled with dissociating feeling and either emptiness, anger, or sadness in waves. I couldn't tell you the last time I had a moment of genuine elation at something or happiness. This just feels never-ending. The constant waiting and planning and thinking and overthinking and hoping and regretting. I stayed home for New Year's Eve, watched a movie, went to bed around 1 after making sure our cat was okay with all the fireworks going on outside. Happy New Year, yes. I had a lot of issues being able to fit all of my things into the luggage I was allowed on the plane, even though I bought an extra suitcase. But I managed in the end. We drove over to the airport late afternoon, and there's always a layover, so first flight was crowded and pretty gross. There was a baby that pooped right in the seat behind me, and that was quite unpleasant. But then after a couple of hours at the other airport and another 2-hour flight, where lucky for me there was nobody seated next to me, I got to the UK. I'm here now, hoping that the next few months that I'm allowed to be here are just nice and normal, and that priority services are back by the summer so I can not have to go back for another 6 months. We're getting married, and that's huge. I'm so thankful that I'm here, and at the same time, I'm so angry that I have to go through it again, and even then it won't be the end. This is where I'm at right now. This is how it's been. I just wanted to share that with you, with the world. Thank you for listening, and I'm gonna get back to gaming now.